Here's the thing, right? The ending of King in Black is great. It is great. And I will say this story is probably one of the best Venom stories that I think I've ever read, and probably the single best Venom story ever written, right? Like it's this story took Venom from a character that just exists and has done some things to a character that I genuinely care about, and I'm super interested to see. Right. So the way this kicks off, the way this starts out is initially with the Silver Surfer, right? Like initially starts off with the Silver Surfer, only because of the fact that we saw the Silver Surfer arrive back on Earth, and basically, you know, intend to go toe-to-toe with Knull. Now, a lot of this comes from the fact that Silver Surfer and Knull had fought against each other. We covered that in the Silver Surfer Black story, the first time that he actually met Knull, and it was actually kind of sent back in time to the early days of the universe. But when he shows up here, it's really more of just biding time. And there's a bit of a funny discussion here, because the King of Black's like, we've met before, haven't we? And he's like, yes, indeed we have, right? And I still remain unimpressed. And because of the conflict the two initially shared, and the fact the Surfer was able to put up such a strong fight against Knull, Knull's like, you know what? I respect you. I mean, I'm still gonna kill you, but like, I respect you, right? Like, I will remember you. You won't just be a person that will just kind of be disregarded as just one of the many people that I've killed over the course of my existence and just don't really care anything about. The cool thing about this is that like the response of Surfer is like, I mean, I may very well die here, but at the very least, I won't do it alone, right? And so you basically end up having like all these superheroes, right? And essentially like the Avengers and the X-Men banding together to face off against Knull. The funny thing about this is before they can even get into the fight, Eddie Brock shows up, right? Like Venom as Captain Universe. Like Venom became Captain Universe in the last issue. And it's the craziest thing, right? Because from there, it's like, here's one thing to understand, right? Here's the thing to understand about Captain Universe and about the Enigma Force. So the Enigma Force grants its user a wide array of different abilities, but more often than not, and really Captain Universe is just kind of a plot device in the sense that the only time you see Captain Universe is when things are really popping off. Now, it doesn't mean that Captain Universe sucks, but there are limitations, right? Captain Universe is not a character that can compete with like the Molecule Man Owen Reese or anything along those lines. Somebody with the power to alter reality on like a universal scale or even a multiversal scale. Captain Universe just isn't that powerful, right? Captain Universe is a powerful being able to channel cosmic energies, things along those lines. But the important thing here is that Eddie Brock is on a whole new level of power, and by all standards of measurement appears to be equal to Knull, and we'll find out why. But it's kind of nuts because Knull initially looks at Eddie and says like so this is it? This is what you brought to me? Like this is the champion that's been selected by the light of the universe, a being that I've killed multiple times, right? This is the champion that you chose? Like, could you have chosen a worse person? The reality is that it was the best person to choose. And the reason why is because Eddie has a personal vendetta against Knull, but also having faced against him multiple times and lost, he knows how to win. But here's the craziest thing that happens here. Eddie Brock does two things. He basically summons the hammer of Mjolnir away from Thor. Now here's the thing. It's one thing to be able to lift Thor's hammer. We've seen that happen before, time and time again. It's another to summon it away from Thor. We've never seen that before. We've never really seen someone summon Thor's hammer away from him, right? Like where Thor is wielding it and someone's like, to me Mjolnir, and they just take it away from him. That's nuts, right? And that's supposed to be impossible. It's supposed to be an impossible feat to be able to summon his hammer away from him. I cannot stress that enough. The second thing that Venom does is he actually takes the surfboard of the Silver Surfer, which is also thought to be impossible because the surfer or the surfboard answers to the surfer and the surfer only. There are individuals who can overpower the board and who can keep the board from returning to the Silver Surfer, but to just take it away from him like that, that's huge. And he basically ends up merging the hammer of Mjolnir and the sword or the surfboard of Surfer, which has been kind of been modified into a sword. He merges them together and creates a whole new weapon, right? This like cosmic battle axe, and it's amazing, dude. It looks legit. Like, dude, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, dude, this thing is lit. It was cool. It is super cool, right? And so he's just like, this is it, right? This is us. Like, it's just me and Knull. And what follows is one of the most spectacular ass weapons in the history of comics. This is insane, right? It's absolutely amazing the way this goes down. Initially, the X-Men and everybody's just like, okay, so I just want to point out here that we just watched Venom take Thor's hammer away from him. He just took it. He just took Thor's hammer away from him and then take the surfboard of the Silver Surfer and then merge them into a singular weapon. Did we see that happen? And everybody's like, yeah, man, we kind of saw that happen, and everybody's just kind of like, okay, Venom's got this, y'all. They just leave it to Venom, right? And literally, this guy, this is, man, let me tell you something, man. This guy's cutting swaths, right? His swaths are cutting swaths. He's cutting swaths through everything, right? Just swaths all over the place. Just cutting them all over the place, right? Man, it's not even in hell would you see a massacre like this, right? I mean, he's running through all these dragons, just slicing them up, just slicing their heads off, right? Just ripping them to pieces. Knull's terrified for his life, right? I mean, this guy is just fleeing for his life. Like, it's the craziest thing, because then like Eddie Brock runs up on him and he's like, no more, right? No more swords, no more dragons, no more none of that stuff. And Knull doesn't understand how in the world he's able to do this. And then he's like, don't worry about how I'm able to do it, man. Just know that I can, right? And literally Knull's just panicking, right? Just panicking. And it's one of these things where like literally he asks him, he comes to Eddie and he's like, you know nothing of darkness, right? But if you want to know of darkness, I will show you darkness, right? It's the craziest, right? So like Knull is like, dude, man, okay, like whatever, this guy's got power, who cares, man, whatever, like we'll let him do his thing, right? But at the end of the day, like, I am Knull, I'm king of the All Black, I'm not worried about some guy with a scythe who has like a glowing logo on his chest, which looks lit. Like, I'm not worried about that guy, right? So like literally summons one of his Celestials. He's like, you know what, I'll let the Celestial take care of this for me, right? I'll let the Celestial deal with this. Now, son. Eddie Brock goes flying up on this thing, uses a scythe and cuts his head clean off, right? Knull is just kind of like, holy shit. Like, Knull's like, dude, Eddie Brock grabs Knull, he was not prepared. And I'm sorry I'm so excited, people. But it is an exciting moment in the story, right? It is an exciting moment in the story, man. It's nuts, because he tells him, he's like, I remember everything, right? I remember all the pain, all the anguish that I've been through, all the times that I died. I remember every single symbiote that was killed. I remember every single ounce of just horror and struggle that I've been through since you've shown up on this world and started unleashing your holy hell on everybody. Knull is in his pants, right? It's it, right? Eddie Brock takes that action and just like sticks it right inside Knull, right? Just jams it right inside his chest, and then strips him of his All Black, right? Like strips him of his power, right? Just like takes his power away from him, and then just drops him, right? And instead of just like leaving him to hit the ground, well, he just like comes racing down on top of him, and he's like, oh no. He's like, no, son, we ain't done yet, son. Like, man, it's an ass whooping, son. Like, it's nuts, man. It's wild. It's wild, right? So like the whole time Knull's like, man, you can't do this, man. You can't do this. And Eddie's like, oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. He's like, Knull's like, dude, even if you kill me, that's like, it's not gonna end, right? The darkness will always live on, and the darkness lives on in your son. Wrong answer, son. Wrong, man. He had to bring Dylan in. He had to say something about Eddie Brock's son, right? So like Eddie Brock snatches him up and it's like, you want to talk about my son? Let's go talk. So like literally he says that, let's go talk. So he snatches him up and then flies him into space, right? Flies him into space and then just drops him off in the sun. He's like, you may very well be right? That with all this happening, that the darkness may live on in my son. But in the end, like the light will always be there to slow it down. So he's just like, this is for Dylan, and just throws him into the sun, right? Just throws Knull the symbiote god into the sun and incinerates him, right? Just watches him burn to pieces. And then from there, like he ends up taking off back to Earth. Now, here's the crazy thing that happens, right? The Captain Universe entity, the Enigma Force, chimes into Eddie Brock and he says like, do you feel it, right? And Eddie's like, yes, right? Like I hear like all these voices, right? They're calling out to me, but I can't really understand them. I don't really know what's going on. And the Enigma Force is like, you've done it, right? These voices are singing. You destroyed Knull. You freed all the symbiotes. The hive mind is now free, right? Like it's free and capable of doing its own thing. But like when Eddie Brock shows back up again, the axe of course lands back on the ground. You've got the Silver Surfer and Thor who kind of summon their own respective weapons to them, and of course the battle axe ends up splitting. So you know the Silver Surfer gets his sword back, or I'm sorry, gets his board back, and Thor gets Mjolnir back. But when Eddie Brock shows back up here, it's a bit of a crazy thing. Because with the whole thing essentially being over and everything being done, you have Dylan who's struggling with all this, right? Because he can because of the fact that Knull is essentially a part of him, he can actually feel Knull burning in the sun. And Eddie's response is, I know it sucks, I know it's rough, but bear with me for a second, this is going to hurt. And he reaches inside Dylan and pulls out the portion of Knull that exists inside of him, right? Because he's essentially kind of a living symbiote to a degree. He pulls it out, right? Like he pulls the darkness directly out of Dylan and then effectively incinerates it, right? Like basically destroys it. And so following that, what ends up happening is that you have the Enigma Force that is just kind of like, good job, Eddie. Like you've basically, like you are no longer just Eddie Brock, right? You're no longer the Venom that you used to be. You become something completely different, something else, something new, right? And so finally, the traditional Venom symbiote bonds itself back to Eddie Brock, and then probably what's the best conceivable ending to this story, right? The best conceivable ending to this story, that you have the symbiote talking to Eddie and saying like, I found you, right? Like, can you feel it? Do you know what's happened here? And Eddie doesn't fully understand. He doesn't fully grasp what it is that's taken place. But all the symbiotes that are there are looking to Eddie now, right? And Eddie's like, stay here, right? I'll be right back. I need to understand what's going on. And the symbiote tells him, you destroyed Knull. You killed Knull. All these voices are speaking to you, and you can't understand them. They're the voices of the symbiotes. They're speaking to you in your ancient language, in your ancient tongue, that only a long-standing member of the symbiote race can truly understand. But you freed your kind. You're the hive mind now, right? You're the god of the symbiotes. You are the new King in Black. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Don't worry, this is not the definitive ending of it all. Venom number 200 comes out at some point relatively soon, and then we basically get the full-on conclusion of the Venom story, right? That will wrap up the entirety of Donny Cates' run and bring it to an end. But I want to know, what do you guys think about the King in Black event? Because I'm not even going to lie, this was fantastic. It was one of the best Venom stories that I've ever read. It was amazing. Dude, it was absolutely amazing. But what do you guys think? Right? Like, what did you guys think about this? Anyway, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. If you guys are new here to Comments Explain, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Court. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.